Yo, what is up guys? It's the man in the candy, the super pigman here today, and today we'll be doing something different than our usual Kenshi lore, Kenshi mod, or any of that stuff. Today we're going to be going over the Kenshi timeline, and we're going to be redoing it again. Well, let's just say that the devs kind of pulled the rug out under us with their tweets and all from like 2 months ago. That I think it's a month ago, I'm not sure, it's either a month or 2 months ago, that I recently made a video on. If you guys want to check out that video, it's referring to, you know, all that stuff. I'll link it in the description below. But anyways, if you guys don't know what I'm referring to, is that the Second Empire was just 1,000 years ago, which will kind of redoes the entire timeline. So we have to we'll start with like going over all the foundings of Kenshi, which could all be myth and legend by now because so much time has passed, and with time passing the story becomes less and less concrete. But the first thing I want to say before starting this is that this is my personal timeline that confines with my beliefs on the lore. So we all might have different timelines that look different, but all end up in the same place. But let's just enjoy this video. So the founding of Kenshi, this is about 15,000, more like 20,000 years ago. This is before the First Empire, or during their expansionism time of the empire. They found this remote planet and decided that they would terraform it. Now you could see that in the distance, or the planet that's orbiting is also very, very habitable. And so they probably had a base there, and they wanted to use Kenshi, or the planet that we're on, use it as a place of an outpost. So they found this remote planet and they decided that they would terraform. I believe it was terraformed by the 3 eyes, or 2 now in present day, that would shoot carbon dioxide and oxygen and all the chemicals needed to build an atmosphere while generating a magnetic field. Now, assuming how advanced this civilization was, they could fully terraform it in less than maybe about 100 years of this were what the eyes were used for. I mean, if you really look at it, they don't make holes into the ground when they shoot down. So this leads me to believe that it's just a bunch of gas that's getting shot down into the pretty much into the planet. They were able to melt whatever ice was on here and raise water levels up, and were able to make ports where the present day swamp is. It was used as a port during the Second Empire too. Now the first humans to come here were referred to as organics. They would be the first ones to come to the planet as inhabitants. They would settle mostly where they could suck out most of the raw materials, also known as Iron Valleys and Black Desert. Now, it's not known when the skeletons were being made, but it's my belief that after humans have come and landed here and seen the amount of labor they needed to have a full efficiency, they started making these models. They made them with a human type of emotions, which was a huge fuck up on the humans' part, and gave them one flaw: that if they got out of control, they need to reset, or else they'll go mad and not function anymore. And this is a pretty cool thing. Like, the whole entire concept is that these people were equivalent to Synths in the Fallouts. The main dev actually really liked Fallout, so the reference to the game is kind of cool. They were used by mankind to better society and to have all of them do the work while they researched the island and formed base in the now known Cannibal Plains. I think maybe 1,000 years on Kenshi led to the communication of the hive, and they maybe started to talk to them and watch them from a distance. Now remember that they did have boats, so they could easily have had some training, and hence with the queen being biotech and being able to live so long, pretty much almost live for an entire eternity until somebody goes there and kills her personally. Now towards the near end of their golden age, they developed behemoths. These were giant skeletons that would have undying loyalty to humans, and while they were so big they can throw a satellite into orbit. That's kind of throwing like the size, you know, in there. They were used as defenses against an external enemy we don't know about. Now, it is believed that there are many theories on how the First Empire fell, but mine is that they defeated the external enemy and got rid of the behemoths as to not let them get into the wrong hands, thus creating Obedience, the place where they threw them in, and also the Fog Islands. Though the islands probably led to the name Fogmen. That's my own belief. The Great Disaster caused for a lot of environmental harm that you can see that pretty much where the skeletons were, they kind of just froze it over, and I'm pretty sure that led into the Fog Islands, and that was probably maybe one of the most inhabited places, or where, like, you know, a lot of stuff was being produced. This great disaster caused a lot of environmental harm, like I just said, so the crops became unstable and skeletons took this time to rebel, and the skeletons got their freedom, and well, famine struck, killing most of the human population. This led to the fall of the First Empire and led into the period between the First Empire and Second Empire, led into the Chaos Age. Now this is about maybe 10,000 years ago, which is the Chaos Age. It is believed around this time organics could not adapt to the new way of life said by the machinists in their books about the first extinction, that they resorted to cannibalism and left their research behind. But there is also another prevalent theory that the cannibals were there first and they wiped out all the organics. So, you know, it kind of goes both ways, but you know. Now, you can think of the Chaos Age as a time in where there's pretty much no law, no big governing state that held power. Most people maybe just lived in tribes and were just trying to survive. They didn't care about technology anymore. They were just trying to find a way to survive. Now, as for the skeletons, they don't need food, so they could keep doing what they did. And around this time, Catlon was struck with the idea of let's make this continent great again. So he started with his best friend Tin Fist and asked him to join him on this noble journey. Tin Fist agreed, and with that they started to recruit more skeletons into their skeleton legions. Now with a lot of people, Catlon began conquering these tribes, settled down in certain areas which would soon be known as the cities we've come to love today, except for Mongrel. Mongrel is a special case and Black Desert City. So after conquering these tribes, Catlon had instituted what he had longed for, was to make the continent great again, but he realized that he would need enforcers that would keep the humans in check, because one left unattended, they create destruction. That is Catlon's main belief, that humans just lead to more and more destruction. So Catlon had some of his scientists and some humans began experiments. They would create two types of humans, the Scorchies and the Shek. Now, I am a firm believer that the leader of the machinists would help in these experiments but not disclose them, because, well, who would want to disclose that? With these two new species, one was super loyal and were a fighter breed, while the other was just a trader and a crafter. This led to keeping the humans in check and creating unrest in the nation due to the testing. Now, the Second Empire starts now as a flourishing empire, but never good enough tech-wise to catch up to its predecessors known as the First Empire. Now, they would have an advanced society, but not tech-wise, but law-wise, and populations of humans would rise again due to there being more food and an economy booming. Now, there isn't any interesting events during the rest of the second period till the Second Empire until the end of their regime. Now, at the end, Catlon had not resetted. Sorry, I just stuttered a lot. He had not resetted and was going crazy, and he had started doing crazy things, like for instance, not trusting the people who had kept the humans in line. The Shek and them realized they lost the who had kept them in line, Shek, and released them and lost a huge chunk of land. And with that, he was going so mad that even skeletons had formed what is now present day machinists and tech hunters. This was mainly formed by IO. Their main goal was to find tech and make sure it doesn't get used wrongly or into the wrong hands, similar with another faction we know outside this game, the Brotherhood of Steel. Now that the humans weren't in check, the rise of belief of Okran was becoming popular, and that these skeletons were beings of Narco, the god of all evil and bad. They would soon start their religion, which would then lead to the first Phoenix, who liberated them from the Second Empire and formed the Holy Nation in Stag, a small city where they would start. But as their cause grew, they led crusades against the skeletons that led to acquisitions of these cities, Bad Teeth, and also Blister Hill. They would form outposts around all their lands and protect themselves from the Second Empire. They soon had a flourishing nation. Now that the Second Empire was crippled and weak due to Catlon's personal mess-ups, he would start making his own peoples into slaves and fighting for his cause. Tin Fist saw this and left because he didn't want to become a mindless Kelly, and also I believe this led him to create the anti-slavers to maybe free these skeletons any way he could. This caused a lot of skeletons to leave the Second Empire, completely destroying it. A lot of them settled in Black Desert City to be away from any life of humans because they hated them, and the Shek too. Around this time, the skeleton started up his shop. I forgot where exactly, but he just set it up his shop. I thought that was kind of like something good to drop. Now, a couple years after the fall of the Second Empire, maybe like, because it was 1,000 years ago, we know that. So maybe about 900 and maybe 90 years ago, the United Cities was founded. They formed a coalition and, well, voted on who their leader would be. Now, the place that maybe held the most power was Kadon, mainly because their scrapmaster school and how much raw material was there and they could make the money they used. Now, around this time, nothing significant happened other than a few minor things like the formation of Mongoro, which is more recent. The city formed pretty much just to escape Okran lovers and sheks and also bounty hunters. Now, the arrival of the Hive. Now, we don't know exactly when the Hive showed up, but it is believed to be a time after the Second Empire, so maybe we'll say about like 50 years after the Empire was fallen, so about maybe like 950 years ago. Now, the Southern Hive were more dangerous than their cousins on the east. I do have a theory on this that can wait till another lore video because, you know, this video is going to be pretty long. It's already at 10 minutes, wow. But why the Western Hive came here is unknown. Maybe they came to thank the early humans, but we do know they came on boats. Now around maybe a couple years before you come, the Shek became mad. They didn't rule everything, and well, they declared war on everyone and started to wipe themselves out until a woman warrior known as Esteba challenged the person in charge and killed them and took control of the Shek kingdom, and well, got peace with everyone but the HN, because the HN remembered the treatment of how they were treated when the Second Empire was in rule. Now, around this time, Tengu's predecessor dies and Tengu gets elected into office, which it kind of leads to the downfall of the UC. Now, we don't know how long slavery has been in the nation, but we do know one thing: it's been a plague, and I don't think it's been in there that long. I think it was probably instituted when Tengu became a leader, because trust me, I think if the slave traders were there for a long time, I don't think they would be having the problems they would have now. It caused someone in their family, the slavery caused something in someone's family, and he rose up and made a base in the Cannibal Plains, and well, became an exile and welcomed exiles from anywhere, and declared himself a rebel leader and founded the rebel founders. What the fuck am I saying? Rebel farmers. Now, Tinfin gets enlightened about a problem in the UC and forms the anti-slavers, and well, declares war on the UC, and then some ninjas that probably got exiled from the United States start their own faction and call themselves Sand Ninjas. The Holy Nation is just really relaxing here in present day, and well, they just help themselves and keep away from the outside world. There were a couple wars that would make them hate the UC. There were some north of Okran's Shield, and then the conquering of Okran's Shield. We do know that in the Battle of the North, they destroyed an entirely, like literally torched the entire place to the point where there's nothing left that of a UC battle of a noble's town, and they literally like murdered the person. Your characters will talk about it. And the conquering of Okran's Shield, they probably changed the name. Before that, it was probably called something else, but they call it Okran's Shield now. And that battle probably lasted a long time too, because it was a defensive position and it lets people into their borders. So now these smugglers and everything can't get in there, so they're kind of choking out their opponents. The hub was probably founded around this time too, and it was just inhabited by people that were exiles of everywhere. Around this time, Carl makes his book, fully declaring himself an outlaw, and will get followers, and is a rebellion against the Shek kingdom. The berserkers are just Shekians that enjoy the old Shekian lifestyle of fighting and hate Esteba, and well, those are the enemies of the Shek. This is the currently timeline of the Kenshi universe now. I know I didn't mention some things or go fully over others, and the reason behind that is because it's either too vague to the point where there's like not really that much